This is the Leadership in Insurance podcast, brought to you by FinPro Search Partners.
Insurance companies are businesses and they need to look for the long term and be sustainable.
We went from 0 to 1 and now it's going from 1 to 100.
Insurance as a concept, as a kind of service, is brilliant. The execution is what we're looking at now.
I think the companies that are going to succeed are the ones that are going to understand and master the art of intent.
When we talk about innovation, we lean too heavily to think about technology and we don't think about creating a culture of innovation.
I think innovation is essentially continuous improvement of existing processes and platforms and product.
Right? It's got to be easy. It's got to be seamless.
Hello and welcome to the Leadership in Insurance podcast. I'm your host, Alex Bonds, and I'm very lucky today to be joined an actual professional podcasting person, Georgie from Artificial. Georgie, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Thank you for having me.
No, I'm nervous now though, because your podcasting career is going gate guns to the point where you've won awards about it. So being on an amateur podcast like mine, I'm a little bit intimidated. So.
Well, this is the first time I've been interviewed, so we'll see how this goes.
Is it genuinely the first time you've been on a podcast as a guest? No way.
Yeah, no one's asked me, so thank you for asking me.
Oh, must be scraping the barrel. No, thank you for coming on. It's really kind of you to do so. And obviously, yeah, we know each other well through podcasting and through your work at Artificial. But just for anyone out there who doesn't know who you are or who Artificial are, we can get onto your podcast later. But it'd be good if you could sort of give us a quick overview of you and Artificial. That'd be great.
Perfect. Yeah, so I'm Georgie. I am Commercial Partnerships Lead at Artificial. So Artificial are a London-based InsurTech that specialise in deploying technology to both the broker and carrier market. What we try and do is to automate a lot of the decisions to help brokers streamline their placement process, and then for the carriers, it's help them deploy their capital more efficiently. My role is I'm responsible for the first engagement with broker and carrier partners. It's understanding what they're looking to achieve and then where our technology can help with them on their kind of digital transformation, and yeah, just making sure that we are the right fit and they are the right partner for us.
Amazing. I think you're not the first guest from Artificial, but I think that's the best it's been explained. So we can't tell David that; he might get upset. So thank you. I think what's interesting about your journey, and we were talking about this before, you didn't come from the world of selling software. You came from broker distribution with Flock, obviously another InsurTech, and then you made this leap into selling software. I get lots of people approach me to sort of explore that, obviously my role as a search consultancy. But it's quite rare to see people do it and do it well, actually, because it's a very different style of selling. It's a very different language. How did you make that leap? How difficult was it for you? What were the sort of challenges you went through kind of making that transition into the world of distribution to selling software, essentially?
I think one of the trickiest things one of the most difficult learnings that I've had to just get on with is the slower sales cycle. So I went from being in a really fast-paced role at broker distribution at Flock, where it was, we were doing multiple deals a day, quick turnaround times, it was that trading environment. Moving to Artificial, the technology, the sales cycles are so much longer because what we sell is a strategy play. So they can take a year because, people are wanting to grow and scale, and are they doing that by technology? Are they entering new lines of businesses through technology? So yeah, it's a lot of a longer, more of a strategic sell. But I was looking for a change. I wanted to add another string to my bow. And yeah, it's definitely different. But one thing that I enjoy, I'm extremely passionate about the insurance industry, but one thing I hate is how slow it operates. And at Artificial, that's where we can make a difference. It's really helping that and challenging the way that the insurance industry trades at the moment. So I find that really exciting. It's something that, I love talking about, but definitely been a transition in roles, different skill sets, and yeah, it's speaking it's a different language. Like my background was commercial motor. The terms that we would say, even though I worked in insurance, were completely different to the terminology that we now use in the Lloyd's market. But it's, different acronyms, it's words that we say that mean different things. So it's definitely a learning curve. But I've enjoyed every single minute of it.
Yeah, that's the thing that I remember right way back when I started commercial motor, and what really threw me was when I came into the Lloyd's market was realizing that there's some language that even in insurance is different because it's different in outside the Lloyd's market and inside of it. So yeah, there's more nuance there than you think. But I think the interesting thing is the people that can do that transition well. You've got that steeped in insurance culture, and it's the culture piece that is really, really different, I think, in most software businesses. It's a little bit different in London, I think, but certainly when we do our work internationally and we do a lot of work in the US, software businesses selling into insurance don't really have any baked in insurance culture. They are very much software houses. You've obviously been how long have you been at Artificial now? It's is it 3 years in total, or is it more?
Uh, over almost 2.5.
2.5, 2.5. I knew it was close. It's been through a lot of change. I mean, Artificial's been, on a real growth cycle. Obviously, announced a recent raise. How's that changed in that time? I'm really thinking about culture here. Has it maintained the same culture? Because that fast growth culture, one of the hard things that happens is you've got a fast growing company. How do you keep what's good about it and then, evolve it to suit, the stage of scale that you're at?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that you have to come to terms with when you are at a company that's going through a lot of investment is that change is inevitable. I think when I joined Artificial, they used the term that they went from a family to a village. And that comes with, a lot of change in job roles. You start in the beginning and you're wearing a lot of hats. And then over time, naturally, you have more defined roles. So yeah, again, it's a journey, and Artificial is going to continue to grow. We've just had a huge fundraise, so the company again is going to double in size. But what works well at Artificial is, I think everybody there genuinely believes that we do have the best technology, and everybody is really passionate about what we're doing and the change that we're driving. When we're onboarding new people, there's a representative from each team that takes time to share who they are, what their role is, so that when you join the company, you really get to grips with what everybody's trying to achieve. I think that's really important. We've got really great people that work at Artificial that really help maintain the culture. So we try and do like breakfast once a month to encourage people to come into the office. We do Artificial Hour, which is a weekly just call on a Friday for people to get together, because when you work in a technology company, a lot of engineers are remote. It's not that kind of insurance culture where everyone needs to be in the square mile. So you don't really see people as much face to face. So it's really trying to maintain a culture of knowing each other through more of a virtual aspect. But yeah, Artificial will continue to grow. The culture will continue to develop, and we'll have loads more people joining us.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting, and that's a really good way of putting it. It was a family, and then it's a village. I think because people really try and keep hold of that family thing, and you just can't. And I think I was naive about that. I remember I used to way back when I used to work for a company called Eames Consulting, which is a brilliant insurance and change technology recruitment business, and I loved working there. But I was there, and it was like 18, 20 people, and then it became 100 within 2.5 years, and I hated working for a business that had 100 people because I loved it when it was like 20 people and we knew each other. But it wasn't worse. It was just a different company. And it actually made me realize that wasn't for me. And I wanted to work for a smaller company and obviously, where I am today with my own business. But you also find out that some things aren't for you and it's not wrong and the business has to evolve. And that's why I think in the UK, we're particularly bad at letting people go. But there is natural shedding of skin. There is people, it's not right for them anymore when it's not necessarily right for the business. So, but yeah, it can be scary as well.
I think it's also just to add to that, I think it's
Yeah,
giving
sure.
people the opportunity that when you do start with them to grow with the business, and it's
Mm.
creating that foundation so that they can, yeah, continue on that journey with us. So we've got people that have been at Artificial now for, I guess, I think they've been up there for about 9 years. They've all just been promoted, a group of them have just been promoted into the C-suite.
Hmm.
Your friend Tim being one of them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I think that really shows the progression that you can make at a company that's going through an investment and growth like that. So I think as long as the companies, yeah, have the foundations for people to grow with you, then it maintains a really nice place to work.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I noticed that happened to Tim, so he might finally be able to have the authority to work with us as a recruitment organisation because it hasn't happened yet. He's been working in InsurTech longer than I've been running an InsurTech recruiter, and we still never worked together. But yeah, Tim Bates, for anyone that's listening in, is a very good friend of mine from school. Lovely man, love him a lot. So talking about you specifically, one of the things that I'm really struck by you in your career is that you're always getting involved in something, which makes you sound like that makes you sound like you're a busybody, but that's not true. Podcasting, committees, even like say, like sports activities and stuff. Like you continually put yourself out there, which I think is really impressive. Like, but why is it important for you?
I mean, God forbid a girl has a hobby.
Yeah, but they
I
do centre around insurance quite a lot, Georgie. That's what I'm saying. The hobby
I
thing's
promise I
fine.
have friends that I have friends outside insurance as well.
I'm sure,
Do you know
sure
what?
you do.
I am very passionate about insurance, and I like how people come into it from all different aspects and walks of life, and there are so many different roles and jobs that you can have in insurance, but we all share one thing in common. And yeah, I've been really lucky. The people I've come across in the insurance industry, I really enjoy spending time with them.
Mm.
And I want to drive change in the insurance industry. And yeah, there's a good bunch of people around that want to do that also. So that's why I like doing it. I'm passionate about people coming into the insurance industry. So that's why I'm on the Young Members Committee for the Insurance Institute of London. And giving a a place for young people to network, grow their connections, and also learn. So that's what I really enjoy about being on that committee. Yeah, I don't know. I need to get a life, really. I think it's what we can establish from what I'm saying.
I mean, you're talking to me that we just talked beforehand. I'm going on holiday next week, and who am I going on holiday with? Loads of people I know in InsurTech. So, it's. I think that is one of the positive things about the insurance industry. I think it is. It naturally has this quite friendly, collegiate atmosphere. Lloyd's is particularly unique because it is collaboration between individuals, essentially different companies coming together on a risk. And I think that does kind of bleed through into particularly London, like where people do work together and they do create friendships and they are genuine friendships that exist out. I really struggled with that to start with. I was always very church and state about work. Um, and then I realized I've been working in recruitment forever and I just thought got friends in this industry and I should probably make more of an effort. And actually, since you do that, but the thing is, when you do that, you find that you tend to be more successful. Life is easier and it's more and work's more fun. So it's not as trite as you might think. And yeah, I think people should really
Exactly.
commit.
I'm gonna do a job for the next 60 years of, actually, I hope I'm not working for another 60 years.
Wow.
Let's say another 40 years,
I was going to say
if
you're not
that.
that young,
Uh,
Georgie.
um, so I might as well enjoy it. I might as well enjoy the people that I'm working with every day. And like you said, I think insurance, you buy from people that you trust and that
Mm,
you want to work with. And for me, yeah, it's all about building the network around you. I had somebody ring me up um, the other day and they were like, oh, okay, I've heard of Artificial, what do you do? We're now talking about moving forward with technology. And that's
mm,
somebody that I've made through my insurance committee network. It just being able to pick up the phone and kind of have that open conversation with people, it just makes life much easier.
mm.
So yeah, that's part of the reason why I enjoy it as well.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I find, yeah, my network does a lot for me, and that's why I do things like this and try and give back. And yeah, that's one thing that you did start, and you started your podcast. Is it Technology Factual Fiction? Is that the title of the podcast? Yeah.
Big sigh. It's insurance technology fact or fiction.
Sorry, it's obviously insurance technology factual fiction. I didn't even think we'd have to say insurance, but no, sorry, I stand corrected. Insurance technology factual fiction. What's
Yeah.
always the title?
Pardon?
It's always been the title of the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We debunk
okay.
industry myths.
I think because I was on it and I definitely wasn't asked that, but was that just but that was at an event. I don't know if it was a special thing. I don't know. Right, fine. That's what confused me. But I really like your podcast. It is excellent. It's annoyingly better produced and edited than mine. But what has it meant for your career? Yeah, what's changed since you've been doing it? Because you won an award, which I saw,
I did.
which I imagine the
I
podcast
am.
huge amount of fun for.
I won the Young Woman in Insurance.
There we go. Yeah. So, but what has it done for you, the podcast? Like, has it opened doors? And has it done what you thought it would do?
So main thing people say is how annoying I am on LinkedIn, and I absolutely take that. The podcast we do a weekly snippet that goes on LinkedIn. So apologies, I completely admit how annoying I am. But the premise behind the podcast was to get people in. So like I'm very fortunate that in my role, obviously I understand the technology and I also get access to the C-suite. So I know what they're looking to achieve. I know what kind of their tech strategies are, but that's not the case for loads of different people in insurance. And technology brings change and it brings fear and people feeling that change and fear. And so what I wanted to do with the podcast is to get people on to talk about myths. So people in insurance think AI is coming for their job. Everyone's talking about AI solutions, then agentic AI. Naturally, you would feel that is going to replace you or at least some aspect of your job. So point behind the podcast on is to get industry leaders on to debunk these myths and really kind of break down the barrier of adoption of technology. So that was kind of like the premise behind it. But what has it done? I think it is achieving that. A lot more people are inquisitive about technology and what it means for their role. Like tech is coming. So either embrace it or get left behind. And that's what I want to do with this is create a safe forum to share about where technology is being deployed in being deployed in the insurance industry for people to be more inquisitive rather than fear it.
Mm-hmm. I think I was having a conversation about I've got two AI-driven companies that are going to come on the podcast, and we were talking about this culture of fear. I mean, some of it has validation. I mean, it's coming for some of the jobs. I mean, it will do. And I do think my take on it is that people are a little bit asleep at the wheel with investing in AI is brilliant, and it's going to augment most people's jobs. So I think it's going to allow you to get out into the market more. I think it's going to allow you to get into the coffee shops and build the relationships. And I think that's positive. But I do think where I'm frustrated is that there needs to be an almost reciprocal amount of money going into training and development, which is either training and developing managers in this new environment, but also kind of we are going to have this challenge of bringing new people into the industry and having to train them in a way that we've not trained them before. So that's my only. I think debunking the myth that it's come for your jobs, I think is absolutely right. But I think I've been frustrated about we're going to plow these millions and millions of pounds into these AI projects, but it's like okay, you need to invest a lot more in your training, and I'm not seeing that happening. So that's my that's the thing I literally talked about for about an hour and a half yesterday with two separate people. So I do think there's some concerns there, but it's good that just people are being more inquisitive. And I think there is even in your time in insurance, you finding people are just more embracing of technology, and there's because God, they used to be resistant to change in insurance. It used to be really hard work.
But I think it still is, because people don't understand. And I think, to your point about this big investments in technology, but is there that investment in people? So I've recently, we've put together a committee of young people that we work in insurance, but we all have a technology aspect to our role. And we've created a committee called the Future First Insurance Network. And the idea of that is to identify, from speaking to either juniors, I say juniors, but people that are newer entrants to the market, and the senior levels and the C-suite, to understand where those gaps are, the roles that you previously have hired people for. If you're a broker, you're probably a people person, you're a relationship manager, you like being out in the market, but perhaps you're not an analytical person, and you don't like looking at all these numbers and analyzing data sets. However, the technology coming in will allow you to do that, and it's understanding, as you said, where that gap is in people, where the gap in people is in skills, and then where the senior leadership, we're kind of sharing that back with the senior leaders to be like, okay, this is what skills are missing, but then also pass it back down and be like, okay, this is where there is a gap for you to grow and learn and get ahead using technology. So we have put together this committee to exactly try to help with that, produce thought leadership on where those gaps are, and help people embrace technology more. Because you would think, if you are a young person in insurance, we use technology in every single day of our life. Like, I always say, the best thing that happened to the iPhone is that when you need a verification code, you no longer have to go off the website or the whatever to go to your text, copy the code and put it back in. It does it automatically. Why in insurance are we still rekeying stuff? And we say that that's just the way we've always done it. Like, we don't accept that in our day-to-day lives. Why do we do that in insurance? And there is still that's just the way I've always done it. And that kind of hesitant to change. So we're still seeing that. And that's really what I want to drive forward, is like people understanding the advantage that embracing technology can bring. It can make you a better broker, a better underwriter, because you're being able to analyze data in a different way. And don't get me wrong, people have been so successful in the way that they have done it previously, but now you have an opportunity as a young person to really leverage technology to get ahead.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's a great initiative, and one of the things we look at outside of what we do is we look at things like performance coaching related to the search work we do, and one of those reverse mentoring things is really important, because your experience of the market as a younger person or a more recent entrant is completely different. I mean, even one of the things that I've tried to embrace, we've got a new starter this week, Josh, it's his first week, and I said to him, question everything we tell you to do, because I've been doing search for 20 years. I've tried to embrace technology, and we have lots of new technology in the business. But if you look at that and go, that looks stupid, because I know he's a real tech first guy. He did a music business degree, and he did loads of things on AI and blockchain 6 years ago. So I said, if you think there's a way of doing this that could be done better, then just question it, at least as a minimum, question it, and then we'll kind of look at it, because it won't be through my eyes that all the change comes. I should be looking at the horizon, but it's probably not going to be the case. Look at us getting technical. We're just going to talk about podcasts, weren't we? I did want to talk to you about podcasting. So you've got this great podcast, Insurance Technology, Fact or Fiction. How do you select your guests? What's the sort of, what makes a good guest for you?
You know what? I select guests based on things that I think are good to talk about, or people that I've met. I do get people recommended to me. So we now get people reaching out saying, I think you should have this person on to talk about this topic, which I'm really grateful for, because it shows that, people want to be a guest. So really grateful for that. It's also, getting a wide variety of people from across the market to share their insight, and using my network as well to bring the guests on. I think all the guests I've had have been absolutely fantastic, and they have been really varied. They've all looked at things in insurance through different lenses. I've had somebody who is a consultant come on. He runs his own consultancy firm. I've had Martin Reef, who's our chairman at Artificial. You know, he brings 40 years of experience to the insurance market. Then I've had Andrew Pedler, who loves claims. So these are all people that bring different aspects to the insurance industry. And I hope to keep doing that and keep growing with having a wide variety of guests on. But yeah, ultimately, it just comes down to like something quite interesting that I want to talk about, or who I've naturally met through going to different networking events, and I make them come on and be my guest. I bribed Will, who was one of my recent guests. He's a chief actuary at Antares, and I used to work with him. And I bribed him on by bringing my dog Harriet, who he's met before. So Harriet came to the podcast studio with us.
Nice. Well, actually, I think through you. Yeah, I did. But I mean, we joke about it, but what's really funny for me is that we get lots of like PR, because obviously this podcast's been going a long time. We get a lot of PR people reach out, but the worst guests often come through PR firms because the guest isn't invested in the podcast, and I'm like, don't come on this podcast if you don't kind of want to be here and have a good conversation, because it's like it is about enjoyment, and I think people get so lost in going, I must pitch my product. And it's like, of course. And I always say to people, of course you want to pitch yourself or your product. It's all about promotion, self-promotion, etc. But if you don't engage in the conversation, it's so obvious. And or if you try and pitch too hard, people switch off. Like they just don't listen. So yeah, it's that's always my top tip when people are about to come on. I was like, just don't pitch hard. Just be yourself, and it will be an interesting conversation.
And I think one of the things that I want to do, I don't want this to be like we have a theme, so a thing for them to debunk. So it's more of them talking about something that they're passionate about. I introduce them when we talk about who they are and their role. But I think what works well is it's their own experience that comes across because they're talking about something that they're equally passionate about. It's not like a hard sale to be like a self-promotion. It's a myth that we're debunking.
Mythbusters. You've got an opportunity to be on that TV program. It's not quite as visual as their one. So InsurTech Week's coming up. You were the first person to mention it to me actually the other day. In a couple of weeks' time. Why? Obviously, it's around ITI's event in London. Why do you think events are important in this ecosystem? Because that's where we usually bump into each other. I look forward to a lot of the events, and they're important for me. But selfishly, in what I do, everyone there could be a potential client, so they're important to me from that perspective. But I mean, maybe you don't think they're important, but I'm always intrigued to see what your take is on the event calendar. So.
Definitely do think they're important, and it's crazy. Like we all went to New York, didn't we? And you meet people at these conferences in different countries, and you probably have a better conversation with them there than you ever would do back in London or in a normal meeting. So you meet people from London in these overseas conferences, and you end up doing business with them because that's where you've connected with them. And I think it's also, it's really good for building networks. And I think it's really good to understand what's going on with the market. There is a common thing with conferences where there's always a new hype trend that people are talking about. But it's really valuable to understand the different lenses that people are looking at things at. So I find it valuable from an educational point of view. Sometimes if we're having a stand, obviously it's great for people to come over and learn about who you are, especially in the InsurTech space. But growing your network, these are fantastic events to do that. And then also just staying educated. So definitely think events like InsurTech Insights are great to attend.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's funny. I was really smiling when you were talking about getting to know people that you already kind of know in your home country, and then you'll be in New York, and then end up. I mean, New York. I went out with, I think you guys from Artificial, and there was about 4 other InsurTechs from London, that I kind of know, but didn't. But you get to know because there's a scarcity of other things around, so you all got to pull together. There's a bit of camaraderie, I think, as well. But the one I was really thinking about was I went to the QIC event in Qatar, and then there was me and like three other InsurTechs that I'd already met, but I'd met them in America, and we were all sort of congregated and then ended up doing business with all of them, I think. So yeah, I do think, I think from a business perspective, but the education piece certainly, and that's the challenge I think for events, is making themselves kind of educationally relevant, but they do a really, really good job. We're nearly at time, but I wanted to hand this one over to you. So I can't believe we're saying this, but it's March very soon. So we're in sort of tail end of Q1. What do you want to achieve this year? And you can break that down as to personally, professionally. What's Georgie going to have achieved by end of 2026?
I think on a kind of a personal / professional lens, just continuing to grow the podcast and having really great guests on there. Just I think naturally seeing the more that you put the content out there, the more people become regular listeners and subscribe. So that's one thing that I'm looking to do. I've got a figure in my head of how many listeners that I want to have. So we'll see if I get there. And then from a professional point of view and what Artificial are trying to do, it's just again growing the market share. I think a lot of what we're seeing right now is the connection between brokers and underwriters, and we want to be at that forefront of the digital trading. And we found that brokers last year were the ones that were heavily buying technology, and now it's the underwriters that are like, okay, we need to be the best distribution partner. So how are we doing that? Is that through technology? Is it being, ingesting emails? So yeah, we've got big growth ambitions this year with having this new injection of investment. So yeah, really fun time. Really fun time to be around and just get in the market, grow the network, and yeah, be in the forefront of it.
I love that. Brilliant. Georgie, I knew this would be a fun conversation. Thank you very much for being a guest on the Leadership in Insurance podcast.
No worries. Thank you for having me.